Okay. So this is the third try. Let's see. We're going to talk about what it means to have a Taurus sun placement. Now, Taurus represents all things that are naturally beautiful. They are like a garden. They are representative of everything that is fertile, everything that grows. They have this liveliness to them that is supported by natural elements. Because of this placement, these will be people who gravitate towards like essential oils, natural oils. In here, there are a bunch of like beautiful natural dried flowers, and there's a scent that's very strong. They're gonna be that friend of yours that has tons of perfumes, or like if you go into their car, if you go into their bag, or even in like their gym bag, they might have like multiple types of deodorant or multiple types of lotions. You know, they're gonna want to always feel beautiful in their body. So that means that they live in their body because they're earth. They are connected to the ground. They could be great gardeners. And again, because this is the soul placement, this is the sun. It doesn't matter what house or what aspect you're talking about. You can bring the sun into any single house, at least just its essence, because this is the heart of who you are. It's the center of the body. You know, it from this place, everything else gets to be fed. You know, it's like, imagine a sun coming out of the center of your body. So through any of these aspects that are Taurian by nature or Venusian by nature, one will feel empowered. One will feel as if they are alive, and because of that, they can bring in abundance, they can attract wealth, and opulence, truly. So these people have an essence to them that is characterized, this is the Queen of Swords, that is characterized by someone who is very strong and bold. Their ideas can be fairly fixed and rooted. Because of that, because they're rooted so deeply, they're not really movable. And they have a structure to them that permeates through all aspects of their life. So in everything that they do, they prefer to have some sort of organization and or like a maintenance or routine. If they are in an environment that is chaotic, that's probably not really going to feed their soul per se, because they need tradition and they need comfort. They need to know that whatever they're doing is going to lead to more comfort on this plane, more comfort in this world. So the way to feed the soul, the way that they might find pleasure and happiness, you know, the way that the soul might find happiness through someone who has this placement would probably be through rituals, like the act of any sort of self-care rituals, yoga, definitely yoga, because it's feeding the body. There's structure to it. It is related to it earths them more, it grounds them more. And these could also be people who are artists of some sort, or even designers, definitely designers, because they're so fixed in a lot of ways. Fine arts versus design is a little bit different, right? Designers generally have some sort of technicality that they're trained in, and it can be more mathematical. It can even be more angular, like architects, fashion designers, landscape designers. Not to say that they can't be fine artists. They can still be fine artists as well, because they still have this Venusian nature. But their work might be more, there might be more of a pattern to it, and their aesthetic they might use a lot of repetition, because in this frame, like in the sameness of whatever they're doing, they find comfort. So they could be like pattern makers, textile designers. And these are just a few things. They could even be musicians, because the soul seeks anything that brings light, and music brings light, right? It brings joy. It is the sun, right? So they might perform well. They might be daytime people, or like morning people, because they're so connected to the sun. They might be people who like to be outside or to watch the sunrise or the sunset, because they have this yearning, this continuous desire to be stimulated by the senses. They're going to want to be in atmospheres that speak to all of their senses. So if they're outside, they probably have music that they're listening to. They probably, maybe they're in the water, or they try to connect to every element, because they're so heightened physically. And this is related also to the fact that they might be people who have like really beautiful scents, like a lot of perfumes, which I think that I already mentioned. And so a way to spot someone with a Taurus sun sign, or even just strong Venusian and strong Taurus placements, would be anyone that like uses products that make them feel good, or like uses like a fragrant chapstick, or always has to have something soft, like their clothing might be really delicate, really beautiful, like handmade, lots of whites, lots of pinks, lots of florals. You can think of the time of year that represents, which is like a springtime right before summer. So there's this freshness, there's this life that's just arising. That's why I say, I think the representation of the sun rising, like someone just basking in the sunrise, would probably be, it would at least fulfill someone with this sun placement. And the difficult aspect, or just like a challenge about having the sun and Venus and Taurus together, is that there's they kind of clash, right? The sun burns very hot, and the nature of Taurus is also, you know, Venus is fairly hot as well, right? So they can, because they're so fixed in what they believe, they can maybe make enemies just because they're so principled in nature. They have very high expectations because they're so systematic about things, and they like order and they like comfort. They don't want anything to be in disarray. Like, they're probably very clean. There's someone that you will see goes through the things that they own all of the time to create like a catalog, like an understanding of the inventory of things that they own, because they want to make sure that they know what's going on. They know where things are. They like to be in charge, and they want to make sure that everything is accounted for. Like, they are accountants, sort of. They're natural accountants, right? So they could work in wealth management, or they could be, even if their sun is not Taurus, their sun is not Venusian, as long as this aspect is strong in some part of their chart, they could be bankers or just work with finance and anything representative of luxury. They would be great brand ambassadors because they can like, because they have that essence of beauty, people naturally, people are in awe of just who they are, and they don't really try so hard. They don't have to try hard. They might not wear a lot of makeup. They might be very minimal or very classic about their taste, but they just have a specific light to them. And again, this is their sun. So they are anything organic, anything that is natural supports who they are. They'll be the type of people who buy very fine wines, very fine foods. They might not, because they're still kind of conservative in a lot of ways, like at least fiscally, or just, yeah, we'll keep it at that. They might invest in things, like even if they don't have a lot, they'll still buy the best because they care about something that has longevity, and they care about having something that retains its value. You know, something that's handcrafted, like something made out of wood. They would definitely prefer a table made out of wood than a table made out of plastic, because it has this element, and even just the tactile nature of being able to feel like, you know, any sort of grain, or just the appreciation of the craft is important to them. And this shines through all aspects of their life. They will always seek out the nicest things, and because of that, they could be great. A characteristic about them that could be really beneficial is that they see the good in everyone. They see people, they see the natural state that people are in, even if not everyone else can see that, because they're so connected to the earth, right? They're so accepting of what it is that is natural. They might deal with pressure, like high stressful environments, well, as long as there's some sort of routine. They could probably, like an example of that might be someone who had to go through a lot of training in something, say like a surgeon. A surgeon has to go through a lot of training. There's a lot of organization, but it's in a field that's related to the body, which is natural. So they could work in like cosmetic surgery, or just in any sort of area that is governed by health and wellness, lifestyle, beauty, maybe traveling. That's not as important. It's more about the craft of an area. Like they're very sensitive to space, and they have this spatial awareness. Like, this might be the friend that you could furnish your apartment with, like furnish a home with. Like, you might have them come in and say, what do I do? Like, what colors do I paint this? They're just natural designers, and because they're so aware of different elements, they'll naturally understand how to compose a space. They'll know what lighting works best, and how to organize the color palette, how to bring harmony to the elements. They might be interested in like feng shui or any principles of design. Is probably going to be something that is fulfilling to this soul, essentially. The challenges with having this placement are related mostly to the fact that these people can be fairly obstinate and rigid in their temper. Because they're so diplomatic, they can become really frustrated when others let them down, or when there is a break in the structure of any sort of environment. Like, they want things to be in order, and they can only really blossom, they can only really be at their best when they feel a certain sense of comfort. So this is important to recognize if you work with someone who has this placement. And again, realize that this aspect can be put through every house. It follows them in every aspect of who they are, even in their Mercury placement, in their moon placement. There's a coexistence that has to exist in order for these aspects to be illuminated. Otherwise, you'll have imbalances of certain elements, and element theory is supremely important with people of this nature. Let's see, what else can we say? They're very much tied to even like herbs and faith. Definitely not necessarily in a scorpionic, not in a mystical way per se, but in just it's almost like it's a fact. They just know that using nature is important. They could have a love for animals, or just for being outdoors, like I said earlier, for gardening. They could be like tea drinkers, tea connoisseurs, and artisans. Back to the design element, they would make great antique dealers or like museum directors, archivists, historians, because they have this sense of appreciation for all things that are natural. There's this overlap with, appreciating anything that is old and anything that is handmade. And colors that are beneficial for them. So if this is your placement and you want to fulfill the desire of the sun, if you want to satisfy the soul or satisfy the sun, an easy way to do that is to feed your senses. So you can wear colors that are lighter, colors that whites, prints, floral prints, pinks are representative of Venus, greens, a lot of greens. You could even just use oils or lotions on your body, taking Epsom salt baths, using essential oils, anything that makes the senses feel awakened is going to immediately bring peace to the sun. You just have to be careful to not be too rigid in your ideologies, because not everyone is as organized and as firm. Not everyone is as principled and confident in who they are. These people are very confident in who they are, and they don't really put any effort into that. They don't really think too much about necessarily what they look like. That might be more of like a Libran aspect. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles that comes up. This is a perfect example of someone who embodies all Venusian qualities and all Taurian qualities. And also, specifically in this card, the pentacle is right at the center of the body. It's aligned with the solar plexus, and everything in the background is sun. It is bright, it is light. So maybe even spending time outside is important for them, like being at the beach, being in the sun or sunbathing could help support their placement. So we'll keep it at that. All right, thank you so much.